All right, Gene Burnett from GeneBurnett.com. Hey, thought we'd talk a little bit today about the whole Tai Chi system and the exercises and stuff in Tai Chi and fighting ability, combat or martial arts ability. And I want to use a sports analogy to just share briefly some thoughts about this, which might give you, I don't know, just an interesting framework depending on where you're at in your training or what your goals are, what your beliefs are. There are people who believe that through doing Qigong and martial Qigong and Tai Chi forms, which are basically martial Qigong exercises, that you can develop martial power and martial abilities. In other words, sitting in a meditative position or standing in a meditative position, running through Qigong exercises, various different ways of holding intent and what's going on in your body, whether you believe in Qi meridians or whether you believe in a subtle use of what we might call in Western world just like mechanics, like a subtle mechanics that is adapted and in tune with and connected to the situation, smooth, efficient movements, whatever your model is for what you're doing in your martial Qigong. There is an idea that some people have that doing that and doing, some cooperative drills where you're, working on what the application might be and then stepping aside and doing it maybe in air, and that somehow this is going to equal fighting ability or martial ability. And that I even read a book by a fairly famous Tai Chi guy who said that the martial applications of Tai Chi happen by osmosis. In other words, it just happens. And his example was one anecdote where some guy did one little surprise thing and he was able to do something to deflect it or whatever. That's not fighting. Being able to handle a single attack from a single person or a single situation in life is not the same thing as being in a fight with someone who keeps coming at you, who is mobile, who is trying to hit you. I'm not even talking about a duel with another trained martial artist. That's a whole nother world. I mean just some random violent asshole who wants to fight with you for whatever reason. You looked at his girlfriend or he thought you were somebody you used to know, whatever. You're in a fight with somebody. You're one little, oh look, he put his hand on my shoulder and I did hold the ball and it was deflected. Like that's not gonna save you in a real fight. Probably not. In my opinion, probably won't be there for you. So the Tai Chi training to me is a basic training. It's a very basic training in how to move your body efficiently and effectively, developing kinetic chains, developing connections in the body and relaxing parts that are too tense, firming parts that are too weak, so your body resembles more and more the Tai Chi symbol, a symbol of balance between firm and yielding, hard and soft, masculine, feminine, plus and minus, whatever you want to call it, yin and yang, right? So it's to develop a Tai Chi body that has that yin and yang, the ability for any part to go soft or to go hard at will, right? So you're developing that. And, those are good attributes, as well as agility and flexibility and mobility and, target practice and knowing your way around your body. All those things are great attributes that really come in handy if you want to step it up and enter a more combative realm. Like if you want to start combatives training with someone who's specifically teaching you how to deal with everyday self-defense situations, or if you want to join the army, or if you wanted to train to be a tournament fighter, or those kind of things. If you want to do all those things, having a background like this is a great way to avoid injury, to know your way around your body. So a lot of Tai Chi is just restraining your limits and staying in the balanced, powerful place. So when your limits are automatically restrained by your nervous system from years of not going too far, then when you go to train in something more combative, your body will be ahead of the game. You'll make so many fewer mistakes because you'll be just cognizant of what is the most balanced position, and very few martial arts ask you to do unbalanced, terrible positions. So it's a great preparation for that. And I imagine back in the old days, these forms were a preparation for grappling and sparring and a transition to maybe defending yourself against an unfriendly adversary. So there's levels of pressure. So when I have a brand new student, I first start them with just basic neutral standing, And so we learn that neutral standing, and then I tell them, and on different levels, there's a bone level to it, and a muscle level, and a joint nervous system level, and all that stuff. And then I tell them everything we do now, from now on in this system, is going to be to pressure test that. Can you keep that quality when you're on one leg? Can you keep that quality through a series of movements? Can you always be ready to move, as ready as you are when you're in neutral, right? So for us, neutral isn't a skeletal held position, and it isn't a deep, relaxed, empty position. It's in between the two. So all the joints are in play and in slight motion. The joints are suspended, so they're not limp and they're not held tight. They're in between, so that pressure anywhere moves everything. Like a puppet on strings, right? Imagine a lead puppet on strings that was also alive. Okay, so everything pressure tests that neutral. When you're in the next position that you learned, are you also neutral inside that? Are you ready to walk away? Are you ready to move? Are you responsive? You're developing neutrality, right? So I tell them everything we do is pressure testing that. And when we're well versed in the system, we can then pressure test it even further with two possible arenas. One is daily life, and you just go out into your life and see if you can get through your day without hurting yourself or anything or anybody that you work with. Try to stay injury-free all day, no matter what you're doing, whether your job's as a waiter or a waitress or sitting at a desk or a taxi cab driver or a cook or a folk singer or whatever the heck you do to make money enough to keep your body and soul together. Can you do that without hurting yourself? That's a hell of an arena to bring this awareness to. And of course the other one is fighting, so that's a lot more risky. I mainly train this stuff for daily life. I kind of keep an eye on that side, but I don't spar, and I'm 64. I'm not going to risk that kind of injury. But that's where you pressure. That's the pressure test. Daily life or fighting. That's the real pressure test. The other pressure tests are ones you give yourself, right? You pressure test yourself to see where your weaknesses are so that you can strengthen them. If you stand on one leg, you'll find out where your posture weaknesses are. Just keep standing there and you'll find out where they are, because that'll be what gives first. So that's my model, right? Learn this system, and then you can pressure test it even more by putting it into daily life or combat. So if you want to be a combative, if you want to use this martially, then you have to train to use it martially. You have to train to do that. And here's where my sports analogy comes in. Imagine you had a baseball diamond in your backyard, and you had a little mound, and you had a little home plate, and you got a bunch of YouTube videos, and you learned how to throw, how to pitch, right? And you watched the greats tell you how to do that, and you went outside and practiced and practiced and practiced. And maybe you had a friend who would just stand there and catch the ball, right? And you looked at your mechanics, you looked at ways that you could make it smoother and faster and more comfortable and more relaxed, injury-free, thorough, relaxed, efficient movements, etc. Now, does that mean if you did that as really, really well, you got really, really good at that, does that mean that you're ready to play on a team? Does that mean that you're ready to play on a good team? Does that mean that you're ready to audition or try out for a minor league team? Does that mean you're ready to make that team? Does that mean you're ready to be called up to the majors? Does that mean that you're ready to be with a winning team all the way to the playoffs and all the way to the World Series? Does that mean you can play in the World Series? Obviously, no! Just like no matter how good you get at the piano at home, that doesn't mean you're ready to play Carnegie Hall. You have to be able to do that under pressure. Not just the pressure of your own scrutiny, but you have to do it under the pressure of the world looking at you. We are social animals. That means something. Just one person looking at you. You know how it is. If you're practicing something and one person starts studying and staring at what you're practicing, it's very difficult to completely ignore. Let's put it that way. So you add more pressure. The guy pitching maybe joins that, weekend warrior league, or joins a friendly league, or maybe tries out for the high school team or the, and you build up your skills, and you can take more and more pressure. The musician plays for a few friends, plays at a party, plays at an open mic, gets a gig, plays a few bars, plays a few concerts, work your way up to Carnegie Hall. You don't just start there from zero, right? The old joke, how do I get to Carnegie Hall? Practice. So the analogy for me with sports is a good one. You learn your form, you learn your drills, you learn your exercises, and then you start pressure testing them. You can pressure test them as separate drills, but then you start interacting with other people as an audience, or as a fellow team, or as a team you're playing against, and you put more pressure on it. And that pressure will reveal your weaknesses, and you can shore those up. And I guarantee you that when you're playing Carnegie Hall, it will not be the exact same song, the exact same notes, at the exact same intervals that you played in your bedroom. And when you get to the World Series, it won't be the exact same pitch. It won't be the exact same mechanic that you worked on when you were just doing it in your backyard. The pressure forces you to go deeper. It brings out different qualities in yourself, and you have to shore up those weaknesses, and you get better and better until you reach the limit of your potential. So that's just a nice analogy, I think, to think in terms of like, this is the basic training, right, for life and for martial arts. The basic training. It's not life yet until you're living. It's not fighting until you're fighting. And you have to train a little bit and get some experience in those arenas. Just because you can do this thing in your form doesn't mean that those skills will be there for you when somebody trips and falls in front of a traffic or something. You have to start getting out there and find out, see how your body responds to surprise things where you're not going to choreograph anything. You take which bits and pieces of things you learned from your choreography training, and you improvise in the moment to do something. I always tell this one story because it's the major time that it's happened in the last few years, but I was in a bar and this guy came wheeling around a table and tripped and was heading for the ground, and in a space of a few seconds, situational awareness, I noticed him, I slipped off my chair, I started moving, adjusting my speed to the road conditions, and grabbed him against my center. I didn't use my arms to try to pick him up, and then I used my body to right him and set him on his way, and he barely noticed he even fell, and he was horizontal almost. By the time I got him, he was about like that, and he would have gone down in between table legs and formica tabletops and all kinds of injury. He had a camera that he was holding on to. He was overweight, he was tall, drunk, he was heading for destination fuck, that's where he was heading. And I'm not saying this to brag, I just was happy that my body put together all these attributes that I learned from Tai Chi and a little bit of non-classical Kung Fu, and managed to figure out, without my thinking at all, which pieces of all those things could help this guy. And help me too, because I wanted to keep watching the band and I didn't want ambulances in the end of the evening. So I was able to improvise, and none of the things that I did resembled a form, but everything I did I learned from those forms. So that's kind of that was a pressure test for me, and I passed that one. So yay. I may not pass them all, but I got one and I passed it. So if I think of that sports analogy, I think this is the basic training, and then that was like a minor league tryout, and then if something worse happens, and even more pressure, I'll just see how I do. I'm just developing my tools for what's coming next, and I don't know what's coming next. So we'll see how that goes. So if you think of that sports analogy, just think about like when you hit the speed bag, when you hit the heavy bag, right? When you hit the pads, does that mean you can fight? Bill Burr has this great story of when he went to, he started to do some boxing in a gym, and Charlie Murphy, Eddie's brother, took him aside one day and said, listen, after you've been doing this for a few months, some guy's going to come up to you and he's going to go, hey man, you're hitting that thing pretty good, man. Why don't we get in the ring and spar a little bit sometime or whatever. He's going to compliment you, but basically he's doing that to get you in there to beat the shit out of you. So bags and all that stuff is great. That gives you things that you use in the ring, but it's not the ring. You have to pressure test it and learn in stages to get to that point where you can get in the ring and you can do that. So think of Tai Chi the same way. That's my invitation and my suggestion. Think of it the same way. You're learning forms that are stylized, ideal versions of various human movements to learn the qualities that you can apply to real life, which is, of course, an unpredictable, unchoreographed thing. So thanks for watching. I appreciate it. I make these videos to be helpful. If they are helpful, please let me know. It's always great to find out that they have been. I do have tip jars all over my web world here at YouTube, as well as on my website, geneburnett.com, but that's totally optional. That makes my day too. But a nice comment that anything I did was useful to anybody is always really nice to hear. I live on a small scale. I'm not trying to be famous and get a ton of love from strangers. I'm just putting things out there, hoping that they will be helpful to the kind of people that they are, helpful for. So let me know if they have been. Otherwise, just take good care and good luck with your training, and happy trails.